Okay, so we are recording today. Okay, we still have people coming in, but we're going to get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Roseanne Dorfman. I'm the program coordinator here at the West Hempstead Public Library in Long Island, New York. I know we have a lot of people from all over. I never thought I'd have to say Long Island, New York, but yes, here we are. Tonight we're doing a review of the new 2023 Mahjong card with Donna Miller Small and Dara. And they're going to help us monitor. Dara's going to help us monitor the chat. Please only use the chat function if it's absolutely necessary. We are really going to try to keep this, very, very succinct and brief and right to the point. And we are asking you all to please stay muted until the end of the program. Okay, so without further ado, let me introduce Donna Miller Small. She is our wonderful Mahjong go-getter girl. She's the one. If she doesn't know it, then it's not out there. So we're very happy to have her here tonight to help us do this program. Donna, welcome. It's been a while since we've seen you.
I know. Well, it feels like I'm coming home to West Hempstead. I've been teaching there for years and just want to thank them for sponsoring us and giving us the platform. It's the first card review I'm doing. And I want to introduce Dara Collins, who is a partner to me virtually, mostly. She and I connected through Mahjong. She and another Donna Miller own a business called Modern Mahjong, and they not only sell products, that's kind of like a side thing. They really do, and it isn't, but they do a lot of social media and a lot of presentations, a lot of Zooms. They provide a great service to the Mahjong community, do a lot of presentations. I've presented. That's kind of how we got to know each other. I did a strategy session last April, around a little after this, for 500 people. And the rest has been history. And Dara and I just finished publishing a book on canasta, because, many of you might know or not know, I have been teaching canasta almost as long as I've taught Mahjong. And we got connected through Mahjong and both played canasta and knew there was a need for a book. And we just birthed a book after 10 months of writing it. So just a little plug for that. And that's, she is my other half other than my husband. So I'm so happy she's here. She's a guru on tech and is going to be supporting. She'll put stuff in the chat. If you have questions, we're going to try to answer them. And we're going to give you contact information if we don't get to all your questions. Okay, so. Okay, from all over we see you're coming. I just want to give you a couple of thoughts and notes. And the first thing, which I've never really had a conversation about with the new card coming out, but a lot of people are questioning, did they get the card? And if you didn't get the card, if you ordered by February 15th, you should have gotten them. They were mailed out at the end of March. So if you did order timely and you didn't get it, then you can call the National Mahjong League and ask them. This year, and even the brightest and the best of people I know, some people decided that they'd try ordering on Amazon or going to Walmart. And guess what? They were bogus cards. They are copies and fakes. So if anybody ordered from there, I'm just going to ask if everybody could keep themselves muted. It would be great. If anybody ordered from there, send them back and order from the Mahjong League. Order from a charity next year. Modern Mahjong people did it and donated over $50,000. That's a lot of cards they sold to Alzheimer's. Okay. So a couple of general comments, and I will share my screen with the card momentarily, but it's always nice to see faces. And just a little housekeeping. If you want a speaker view, you can change the view. If you want a gallery view, if you want to blank your camera. Anyhow, just a couple of comments. Last year, I thought the National Mahjong League really shook things up because there was so much newness. There was so many things we had never seen, hands we had never seen. And this year, they're continuing the trend because there's a lot of newness. So with that in mind, just a couple of thoughts. Please, you know what, folks, Roseanne, can we mute everybody? Okay, good. I think we're good now. So the sections on the card are the same with one addition. And they are addition hands.
They can't hear you.
If you can't hear me, you need to check your audio because everybody's okay with, from what we know. Okay. So the sections are the same. I'm going to go over the card, have a lot of visual presentations. There are 70 new hands. 70 total hands on the card this year. 35 that have shown up somewhere in the last 8 to 10 years. So if you're playing a long time, you might see some, stuff that was rested. But there are new hands. There are 9 exact repeat hands from last year, verbatim. So what does it mean? It means there's a lot of newness. And somebody who does calculations, not me. The 2023 card has almost 1,000 ways to make a hand. That's with all the variations. Okay. And there's patterning that happens. And I'm going to talk about this when we look at the card. But if you've played before and understand the patterns that change, and the most common ones are the pungs and the kongs. And so many of them, last year it was pung, pung, kong, kong. This year it's pung, kong, pung, kong. So you just have to kind of retread your mind and your memory. And we have PDFs and things we're going to be able to share that you'll be able to reference after our talk. Okay. Also want to talk about the winds and dragons section. I really want to applaud the league because I think they've done a really good job of making that section that I always considered kind of a stepchild. Nobody wanted to play those hands. Last year, they really enlivened them. And this year, they've extended that livening up. So it's an important section. If I had to tell you to study one section of the card, because there's a lot of new hands, that might be one of the sections. Okay. Now, the other thing that we started to see last year, lots of hands take a single tile, one. We saw that creeping in last year. That has continued this year. Many, many sections have them. And all tiles can be hot tiles for singles. And I think it was Dara who told me 8s and 9s are the only ones that are not single tiles. So what used to be a safe tile when we had 4, not counting flowers, if you could account for 3, that one tile usually was safe. With single tiles, that's not the case anymore. So just put that in your memory. Flowers. Flowers are the garden that grows when you don't need it and the garden that doesn't grow when you need them often. So guess what? 31 hands this year have flowers, and that's 44% of the hands. And that's a little bit up from last year. Last year, you might remember that there were pungs of flowers. And I think that crept in the year before, and sometimes there were double pungs. No more pungs of flowers. So if you see somebody expose 3 flowers, they're playing last year's hand. and they would be disqualified, or what we call dead. Eight sections on the card have hands with 4 flowers. So there's only about 8 hands. So it might be wise to look at the hands with 4 flowers and kind of get to know them, because that's a clue when somebody exposes what they might be playing, or at least a direction. And something I thought about that's really important: when you're playing in your groups, when somebody declares mahjong, wait and make sure that the hand is correct. Qualify, particularly early on when there's a new card, because somebody could be playing last year's hand or the wrong pung combinations. I saw this happen many years ago. And what you want to do almost always when somebody declares mahjong, you want to verify it and look at the hand, because if you expose your tiles or throw them in and they're disqualified, you're disqualified as well. So particularly with a new card, don't throw your hand in, and check and verify. They could be playing a concealed hand that they didn't know. We're going to talk about those. Okay, so those are my notes. I'm going to go over each section of the card. Let me share my screen. And Dara is putting stuff and answering stuff in the chat. I am so lucky to have her.
If you don't like my chat, if it is interrupting Donna, I will not be offended at all. Just move the chat off the screen. I know some people like chat, some don't.
Okay, so, and I have one section at a time up. It's the easiest way for you to see it. Let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger. There we go. Okay. Just as a note, just as a reminder, in case there's new people out there, remember that the dragon, the white dragon, is a dragon, but in the year hands, it's used as the number 0, just when we have like a 2023. So when you see zeros here, they mean soaps. I don't have a lot to say about this section, but again, anybody that's fairly new to the game, and I'm gonna highlight some of these hands. When you have 2023, those are 4 single tiles: a 2, a 0, a 2, a 3. They are not a pung. They cannot be called and exposed. Okay. 2, 4, 6, 8. There's always a variation. We talked about single tiles. Well, here's 2 single tiles right there. The hand that I really, the hand that's there all the time is the 2, 4, 6, 8, and there's 2 different suits. Here's where the pung kong comes in. That's the pattern this year: 3, 4, 3, 4. In not all the hands, but a lot of the oldies but goodies. The new hand that I started to look at more is the next to the last hand from the bottom: 2s and 8s in one suit, and dragons in opposite suits. I like this, and there's no pairs. I like hands without pairs, folks, unless I have the pairs. Okay, any like numbers? Well, there's one less hand here, and the hand with the dragons is a closed hand, folks, and I'm going to show you this later. For anybody that's new or newish to the game or has trouble remembering closed hands, take a highlighter and highlight it. All the closed hands are the last bottom hands on the card, but you might not remember that. And particularly this hand with dragons was not closed last year. Okay, and then we have addition hands. Some people like them, some people don't. It's, you know, 1s, 1s, 2s. And they all have a pair of flowers. Okay, so that's the first section. All right, so the middle of the card. Here we are with the quints. I love quints. When I get 3 jokers, I always look at this. And sometimes I look at it even if I don't have a lot of jokers. top hand is a new hand, something I haven't seen. It's a variation. You can use any wind, you need 4, and any number. So it's got to be like numbers. And we're going to talk about the parenthesis and how the Mahjong League describes hands later on. And then this hand, the second hand, it was a 2, 4, 6, 8 hand that had these pairings. And they got really clever, as Dara pointed out to me when we were going over some stuff the other day. It's 2, 3, 4, 5, only those numbers. And it's like 2 2s, 3 3s, 4 4s, 5 5s. So it's a play on the numbers as well. So, and the good thing about this is you could do this hand with only one joker. And it's a it's a switchable hand from the one right underneath from consecutive run right down here. I talked about combinations. Sorry there. Every year we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's either or. It's the only one in this section that you have to play what they're telling you. And this year they've changed the pairs, and it's what has been called a pyramid. It's 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. So you're up, 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 and then down. So you got to remember the pairs are the first and the last. Okay, second hand is a perennial hand. I hope they never discontinue it. Last year they added 1 suit. Somebody named Tom Sloper, who I often recommend to my students and who has written a lot of good stuff and has a wonderful website about Mahjong, calls this the golden hand. Look at the variations and guess what? No pairs. And it's 1 suit or 2 suits. Next hand is a throwback from, I think, 2 years ago. It's been on the card a lot. I mean, I'm playing 15 years, and a variation of this hand has been on every year. It's probably going to be one of those go-to hands. Here's another new hand. And here's another single tile, and it's any consecutives. The next hand is a carryover from last year, a lot of choices. And here's an interesting hand, the 1, 2, 1, 2s. I've not seen this before. And here we have the 3, 4, 3, 4, the pung, kong, pung, kong. A lot of variation, any 2 consecutive numbers. I think it's going to be a real go-to hand. I kind of I've been playing a little bit online. I haven't played live. Darren, I hit the real Mahjong yesterday and did some hands. And I'm going to tell you how to transition and some tips to do that. The more you try and play, I think this is going to be, I hadn't really realized about this hand till I started playing it yesterday. I think it's going to be a go-to hand. Then we have another new hand, a pair, 4 flowers, and then the third, triple, triple. Now here we are with a concealed hand, something new. What I noticed, one of the first things I noticed with the card, there are 4 hands that have 4 pairs. I've never seen a hand on a card that had 4 pairs in all the years I'm playing. So 1, 2, 3, 4 pairs. I don't love hands with pairs unless I'm playing a single and pairs hand. Look, if you have the tiles, fine, go for it. But 4 pairs is a lot. Okay, the 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 section. First hand is verbatim from last year. Not verbatim. It's the new pyramid. It's the same sequencing as the consecutive run. 2, 3, 4, 3, 2. Pairs are at the end. But it's a variation on a hand that's been here. Last year or the year before, they made it 3 suits. Those are pretty widely played hands. 1, 3, 3, 5 is a carryover, except the pairings are different. Here's where we get the pung, kong, pung, kong. If you've played before, it's a good go-to hand. It's something you'll probably be familiar with. The next one is a carryover. It was a new hand last year. I like it. It's a variation on these with 2 flowers. And here we are with another 3 pairs in this. They often have like numbers with dragons. I don't love that there's 3 pairs here, but so be it. And the hand under it, this is a bring back from it's been on and off the card. Again, if you have the pairs and it's opposite dragons, it's a hand I kind of like. Next hand, it's a new hand. I haven't seen it before. So it's something to study. The hand, the next to the last hand from the bottom is a variation on a hand they had last year, except they've got pairs in here. Honestly, one thought about single versus pairs, like here's the last hand, which has a single tile in it. Sometimes it's easier to get a single than a pair, I have learned to realize. Okay. On to those winds and dragon hands. Look at this, a real wealth. This first hand's a carryover from last year. Oh, it's an or. Well, that's interesting. This is a new ad. You know what? I hadn't really realized this. 3-3-4-3. Well, isn't that interesting? See, I've been looking at this card, but not for weeks, and I'm still seeing new things. So hello. So here we are with 3 norths, 3 souths again. And then it's a variation on last year, and it's a pair, and a Kong. Any consecutive run, any run. And it's east-west or north-south. Okay, so here's something new. North-south, 3 dragons, 3 dragons. Any 2 dragons that are different. Or you can do east-west. There's a the next hand underneath has that 2023 in it, and it's north-souths or east-wests. So again, it's a variation on something we've seen before. Okay, so moving right along, this is a brand new hand. I made this hand. I mean, if you've got the north and a couple of easts, then, you know, you're good to go pretty much. That's the kickers here. But it's a new hand we've never seen. And then this is a variation, dragons, somewhat with the north-south with dragons. The only thing is these are pairs and singles. So I'm going to talk about switchable hands, and you'll see later on. And then here's another one. It's closed. But again, it's got the norths with east and west. So east and west could be hot tiles because there's single tiles here. There's single tiles here. They're probably around a few other places. So here we're seeing single tiles. Okay, 3-6-9. For the first time in many years, the second hand is a variation of what they've been doing for a long, long time. They made the flowers 4, and they reduced the 6s to 2. It used to be 4-4-4 with 2 flowers. So they've made the 6s the pair, and then it's any 3 suits here. Yeah, there's other variations here. The other hand that looks good to me, again, because there's no pairs, 3-6-9. And this is called knitted when the 6s match the dragons. To me, it's matching dragons, but and they even say that, sorry folks. Matching dragons, no pairs. Okay, single and pairs, all concealed by virtue of single and pairs, no calling. They brought back a favorite hand of mine. I like this. I think it's a good junky hand if you have nothing. It's 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. But remember, it could be 8-9, 8-9, 8-9. So it gives you a lot of variations on what you can do. And then I'm going to skip down to this hand, the next to last hand from the bottom, 1-7. It's a repeat from last year. I would say it's probably the most made, it was the most made hand in single and pairs, because it's any 1 suit, any 7 numbers that are pairs. And of course, the 2023 hand, the big hand, we all call it. So that's kind of a bird's eye view. I'm going to keep on going, and I'm going to highlight some important hands and questions that have come up. And let me just switch to here. So, and this is information where to find me. If you Google me in Mahjong and Canasta, Long Island, you will easily find me. Okay. And I want to thank Dara. She did the PDF presentation for me and with me. So we have the pleasure of having a good graphic presentation. Okay. So remember, the card's going to be blue, people, and it's going to say 2023. Okay, so these are FAQs that Dara pulled out. And the most asked question is on that 2023 section with what dragons could be used. So let me, right here. Sorry, it's the wrong one. It's right here. So the Mahjong League didn't have any 2 dragons. They said any dragons, and that's a little confusing to people. If you look at the way, I'm sorry, I've got the wrong hand up there. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the 2023. No, this is the right one. It's any 2 dragons. This suit can be anything, and the dragons can match it or not. So it's any 2 dragons. You must have a 2023. And I gave you 2 examples here. So there cannot be 2 punks of the same dragon. They have to be different dragons. Okay, so hopefully that has, and if this is something you've been asking yourself a question about, then, just know in that parenthesis, they should have had a 2 in there, any 2 dragons. And you see the colors, it's 2 different colors. So that's a clue. They showed you with 3 different ways here, which I have here. Here's BAMs, here's dragons that are stand-in for cracks, and here's soaps. So there are kind of 3 suits there, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a 2023, and you could have reds with it. So this stands alone, and then it's any 2 sets of dragons. Okay. I want to talk about this for a minute because some people get confused when there's news. There wasn't a news hand last year, but news are 4 single tiles, just like 2023 are 4 single tiles. No jokers can be used. You can't call and expose them. It's a north and east, a west, a south. The 2s are pairs in 1 suit. The soaps are soaps, and then the 2s and the 3s, and there are 2 sets of pairs in this hand. These are the same suit. So if we look, this is 1 suit, this is 2 suits at the end. And news, wins are always neutral, and soaps are neutral. They're the number 0. Okay, so 2 suits. Here we had cracks, here we had dots. And sometimes there's a question, the 3, 6, 9 hand. Here we go, a single tile again, a single, a pair, and 3 9s. And they're showing you 3s and 3s. But they're telling you the Kongs, the 4 of a kind, can be 3 6s or 9s. So I did 3 6 9 here in cracks, and then I pulled out the 6s. So that's just a more of an FYI on that 3 6 9 number 5. Okay, any like numbers we talked about, it's concealed, people. Engrave that in your mind. And this is what it would look like, or could look like. We've never seen single dragons before. So we got them now. Okay, let me get to this. This is something we're gonna talk more about hopefully towards the end, but I do wanna, it's a chart. Darren and I were talking about this whole thing that came up because the Mahjong League didn't put any 2 dragons. There's not a lot of room in real estate, as we say, on the card. The league has only a certain amount of writing they can put on one line, so they can't put everything. So remember, the card's written in a code, and as we said, the color on the card does not indicate the suit. It's telling you how many suits, but there are, what Dara and I came up with, what she did actually, was fixed sections on the card and flexible sections. And I started to kind of transition my teaching into explaining it that way, and I'm going to go more. And this is a great visual about what sections are fixed and what are flexible. And it explains it more. Dara's going to share the link. You can have access to this PDF and other ones. We're going to share it at the end of our time. Okay. So I'm going to stop for a minute, and I'm going to go on. I have how to switch what I think are switchable hands and a couple of other tips, but I'm going to stop my share for the moment and see if there's any burning questions, or if Dara's uncovered anything in the chat that
I had to step away for 1 second, and I think Ellen and Heath were both asking about a question. If you have zeros for the BAMs, can you still use the 2 and 3 of the BAMs? Were you talking about the 2023 hand?
I think it's the one I showed.
Yeah.
Yes. Remember, the soap and as a 0 is suit neutral. When it functions as a dragon, it matches the soaps, but as a 0, it's suit neutral. It goes with any suit. So in 2023, you can use BAMs, cracks, or dots. So hopefully I've
And that's
answered that.
regardless of what color is the 2023 is written in.
Correct. Good point. All right, are we good? All these folks? All right. If you think of any questions, you could let us know. I'm going to go on.
Heath is just, so in other than the 2023, the other dragons can either match the 2023 or contrast. So you just can't use 6 of the same dragon, but the 2 sets of 3 dragons, the 2 pungs could be green, red, or soap.
I'm going to show that picture again, because that's the most questioned thing that that's the question that gets the most. So here, this is what we were talking about. So these dragons, and when it says any 2 dragons, it doesn't mean it has to be red or green. They will tell you, and I don't think there's anything on the card. Only if it's matching does it have to be a certain dragon. Here they're letting you have any 2 dragons, regardless of what your 2023s are. And I gave you 2 examples of it. Okay. So, okay, so we're good. All right. So I want to go on. I think an important thing is to know what hands are able to switch. Switching is an art of this game, and if you're a seasoned player, the more you know the card, the easier it's going to be to switch. And I could switch my hand numerous times during a game, and particularly during passing. So let me just get down to where I am going here. Okay. So I put up some examples of switchable hands. And so here's the single and pairs hand that I talked about that I like. Any 2 consecutive numbers. I did 4, 5, 4, 5, 4, 5. This is, to me, an easy switch to that new hand I said I think was going to be a go-to hand. Because look how easy it is to switch. You start pulling in jokers, you switch right up here. You got your 4s and 5s, and you got 4s and 5s. Either you pick the dots, the BAMs, and here's that 3, 4, 3, 4. So that's one way to look at switching a hand. Okay, and it's singles and pairs number 2, which is concealed, and consecutive run number 6. Dara's so good. She puts all this stuff in. She does it in 5 seconds too. All right.
And
Another
Donna,
way
just to interrupt for a second, when you say switchable, a lot of times people might be doing a singles and pairs and one of the tiles they need is gone. So they think, and if they didn't expose, obviously their hand's not dead, but if they think in their mind of a backup hand, then they could kind of resurrect their hand and switch to another hand.
Thanks, Dara. Good point. Because if you're playing single and pairs here and you don't have the 5, maybe you've got 1 5 crack, and you see all of them go out, you're never going to make it. So that's when you think about switching as well. Excellent point. Okay. So here we back are with the 4 5 4 5. And this is a new hand on the card. It's 4 flowers. So you'd have 2 here if you were starting. And it's the pair, 4s and 5s. And then you go to the next number, 6s in the second suit and 6s in the third suit. Okay. So here we are. I didn't put this. So it's singles and pairs 2, concealed, and you can switch to consecutive run number 7, which is exposed. Okay. Here's that hand I talked about. Any 7 consecutive numbers. So here we have BAMs, and it can switch to, because you've got all these pairs, probably have at least 2 pairs if you're going for this hand. So I pulled out the 3s and the 4s is the pairs, the 2s and the 5s we use jokers with, and 3 of a kind. And then it's a pair of matching dragons, and here you'd certainly have to have a dragon here or there and a flower, but it's just a thought. And so singles and pairs converts to consecutive run number 8, and both are concealed. Okay. To me, this is the most switchable hand, because remember, it's any run. This is the golden hand I talked about. 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind, 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind. You go in for this and you start pulling in jokers. You could remember it's any 4 consecutive numbers. So it could be, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that's why this is such a workable hand too. So think about switching. If I get a lot of 1 suit, I'm going to focus on a 1 suit hand. I mean, that's where the tiles are. And just by the way, folks, as a note, I let the tiles lead me. And they may lead me to a hand I don't love, but if I've got the tiles and I think I could win, I'm going to start loving that hand. Okay. So as we said, single and pairs number 5, and we're switching to consecutive run. Okay. So here's consecutive run. And that's why this is such a dense and important section of the card. It's the most important section of the card because it gives you a lot of variables.
Donna, for a second,
yeah.
Can you scroll down or make it smaller? Because it was helpful for some of them to see the hands that you're talking about.
Oh, thanks, thanks. Hold on. Here we are. Okay. So consecutive run number 3 is the oldie but goodie. It's got 2 flowers, and it's 4, 4, and matching dragons. But this is easily switched to this. 3, 4, 5. You still got your 2 flowers. Maybe you don't have enough dragons, and you've got some 5s or 2s in front of it. I think it's a very switchable hand. Well, let's go down here. Okay. This is another switchable hand. If you're not getting the pairs here, well, you can switch right down here. So it's consecutive run number 8, which is concealed, to consecutive run number 3, which is exposed. Okay, so the 2, 4, 6, 8 hands. So this is the first time I've seen the 4 flowers, that first hand in 1 suit with a single 4 and a single 6. So what if you don't have those? Well, this is a great place to go. if you have jokers and you need single tiles, you might want to think about expanding to where you don't have to wait for the single tile. And here's the 3-4, 3-4 again. This hand's been on the card as long as I'm playing, the 2s and 4s, 6s and 8s. Okay. So it's hand number 1 and hand number 3. Okay, so here we go. Winds and Dragons, number 7. This is concealed. And what if you're not getting the east and west? Well, you can switch right up to this or the other one. That's the variation. So I think there's crossovers there. And here we go with this. I mean, I think this is a great hand. And remember, you could use east and west as well because there's no pairs. Let me put up the number of hands. So this is Winds and Dragons up here. It's exposed. And it switches to this. Or even you could think about if you're thinking about playing this and you don't have the east and west, and you can switch easily up to here if you don't have those 2 tiles. Just remember, here you need pairs. This, it's 4 and 3-3, and here it's 4 of a kind, 4 of a kind. So if you expose the 4 of a kinds, you're stuck with this hand or something else that has 4 of a kind. But just as you're formulating your hand, you can think about both hands. The key to this one, it's if you've got the single east and west, then, well, and you've got 2 pairs. So it's a harder hand. Okay. I think I'm done with this. So I'm going to stop sharing. And
So I answered the question, but love to hear what you have to say about it. Let me scroll back up. She was asking what makes you go for concealed hands? Like what is a...
That's an interesting question. You can share what you said in a minute, but I want to think about it first. What makes me go for a concealed hand? The tiles I have in my rack. If it's leading towards there, I'm going to go for that hand. And also, if I don't have a lot of jokers and I can't call, then, you know, I might as well go for a concealed hand. I could call the other way. But I said this in the strategy webinar I did for Dara and Donna last year. The tiles should lead you. You look at your tiles. You could have a favorite hand and try it and maybe get lucky, but I don't want to work so hard. It's hard enough. You know, this is a game of luck and skill. And I want to make mahjong before someone else does. So I'm not going to force a hand that I don't have. I'm going to play a hand that's pointing me to it. Dara, what did you share about concealed hands?
I said concealed hands can be harder since you can't call and expose. But if you look at the actual concealed hands on the card, a lot of them don't have kongs, a lot of them have pungs. So if they were exposed hands, they'd be very easy. They would be probably the easiest hands on the card. So for those of you who also play canasta, I kind of look at like the singles and pairs hands and the exposed and the concealed hands as a special. And that's what I look at first. And I try to get that. And then if I can't get those, then I have a backup hand and switch to something else.
Yes.
And it's hard because that's just like you said about flowers in a garden. When you don't need jokers is when you pick them. So it's like after you pick the 3rd joker, you're like, okay, fine, I'll switch from against a singles and pairs hand.
Exactly. And there was a question I'm going to answer, but Dara really hit the nail on the head too. The Mahjong League makes them concealed because they're easier hands, usually. And they give them a 30-cent value because you can't call. Yes. And, you know, the one thing I liked when I was a newbie all those years ago, I liked playing concealed hands because I didn't have to worry about missing a call. I couldn't call tiles. So I could sit there and pick and throw and just watch my hand hopefully come in. But yes, if you're playing concealed, you wouldn't have exposed anything. So it's a perfect time to change. If you start pulling in jokers and you want to open it up to be able to call, that's when the signal might be to switch. Okay. Right. Oh, and can you exchange a joker? You could, yes, Dara answered that. You can always exchange a joker. It doesn't matter what you're playing or where you're at. And you want to be aware of being able to exchange jokers because you want it before your competitors get it in many cases. So even if you don't need it, that's a strategy thing. And we've talked about that. There's a ton of strategy webinars, not a ton, but enough on Modern Mahjong's YouTube channel. They have a ton of, they've done a lot of webinars. I did a strategy webinar last year, and it talked about, we had a whole section about jokers and exchanging. So, you know, take a chance, and when you're not doing something one day, you might get a couple of tips. Other questions? Okay. No, we're good. We're doing terrific. Okay, and Dara's putting up stuff in the chat. I want to share
Oh,
just
do you
yeah.
mark your card as you're playing? Do you count off the hands you make or no?
Good question. I have a second card, and you know, I never did originally, and then I taught a group early on, and I became friendly with one of the people in the group, and I end up subbing in their game. I mean, I taught them over a decade ago. And remember, they always they started checking off their little card. I don't like marking up a good card. I like a blank card. But I do keep a second card. And it's like a little game that I check off the hands that I've made. It's fun. It's fun.
We actually, since some people kind of think it's like sacrilegious to write on the card, we actually have a PDF where you could print it out and write in the hands and check them off. So if you don't want to write on your card.
Right. Oh, that's good. So that's another little accessory you can find there.
Do you want to answer it? We have a question about exposing jokers from dead hands.
Oh, okay. It's not about the new card, but we have enough time to answer the questions. Just as far as rules go about Mahjong, there's a certain amount on the back of the card. Yes, the addition numbers are those only. Exchanging jokers from hands that go dead. So if there's exposures up previously to identifying the hand as dead, they stay. If there's an exposure that identifies the hand as dead, it goes back on the person's rack. So hopefully I've answered that. Dara, do you have anything to add?
If the exposure itself made the hand dead, like if it's a concealed hand, that alone, you know, you can't exchange it. However, there has been some debate about what if no one called the hand dead. So I think that just goes into kind of etiquette. Some people say until it's called dead, you can exchange it. If I knew a hand was dead, I wouldn't be able to take the joker. So,
well, but if there's exposures up and it didn't identify the hand, say, as a concealed hand,
and that's safe. That's completely
safe. And then if the person calls Mahjong and it's identified as a concealed hand that they exposed, the tiles that were up there before it was revealed that it was concealed, those tiles stay and the other ones go back in, from what I know. Because what causes you to go dead, what's identified, goes back in your hand. So even if it's a whole hand, previous exposures are left up. Okay. Other questions? Dara has a card tracking thing. I got to look at that. Okay. So I'm going to just close with a couple of tips, and if there's other questions, we'd be happy to answer them. We want to also leave you with information of where to go after here if you have questions. This is the new year. It's just the beginning, folks. So we're not going anywhere. We're going to be playing my writing partner is in Florida, and she's coming to New York, and we're meeting up in the city and playing Mahjong this week. It's my first time to play live. So how exciting. Life is good. So just a couple of tips when you're learning the card. the new card, study the card, look at the card when you've got time. I mean, I did that. I went to the dentist today and I had my card with me. You might have pictures on your phone if you don't have your card with you. And just familiarize yourself with it. And people learn in different ways. Here, I was sharing the screen on the section of the Winds and Dragons, and I saw a wind hand I hadn't looked at well. So that's just familiarizing myself with the card. And Tara wrote a cute poem about the Winds and Dragons. I love it. It's on their site about the winds. If we have time and it's there, we could share that with you, but it's so true and so clever. Take out your set and put the hands together, the new ones. Put them physically together. I teach that way. I teach people to learn to play Mahjong and to learn the card by doing it, by putting the hands together visually. So you read the shorthand on the card and you put the tiles up, and you can do the different variations. Pick the new hands or hands that look challenging to you and practice putting them together. It will serve you well, folks. Deal yourself 14 tiles. Take them 14 random tiles. Don't include jokers, put them back, and do a mock Charleston. You know, do 7 or 8 picks and passes and tiles in. And that will get your brain working to what hand on the card, what section. First, we look for a section, folks. Then we look for maybe a basic neighborhood. Hopefully we find a hand, and hopefully maybe, you know, the hand comes in. So that's a really good way. Play online. That's what I did. That's what Dara has done. I haven't been in a live game yet, and I'm playing a lot online because if I'm not playing with someone, if I'm just playing against the computer, which I usually do, it gives me time to sit there and look at the card, think about what new hands there are, and to me, that's a perfect way to play because you're not holding anybody up, but you're playing and you're learning. Okay. So we're kind of coming up to the end of our time. I did want to just put up contact information again. Modern Mahjong put their information up. They're down. Let me just see where she is. I think it's right on this. Hold on one second. I'm just going to take a scroll up quickly. I can get there. Right here. See if I can enlarge it a little bit. She put it in the chat, but you can go on to their Facebook group. On their website, they have PDFs of a lot of the things that we've shared tonight. And if you want to find me, my website is Mahjong in Canasta, Long Island. You can contact me through there. And that's where we are, folks. So an exciting card. Are you liking it? Has anybody played out there? Give me a thumbs up. Yeah, okay. Good, good, good. So I want to thank Dara for joining me and us and enlivening and sharing, and Roseanne Dorfman and her staff and crew at the West Hempstead Library. They work really hard on programming. They do a great job. She really had to do handstands to enlarge the venue to accommodate everybody, but we're all here. And thanks, folks.